Hi. I like that. I use it and use. I can walk off after that because it's always nice. Hi. Oh, it's even better. Okay, so just quickly, I just got called up a little while ago and said, come on by and maybe you can do a piece. And this is one that I look at and I see maybe 3/4 of the audience has heard this piece before, okay? But I realize, and I'm not a poet, I realize a lot of poets, that they were repeating other people's pieces and things like that, so it's okay. Is that right? Hi. Okay. Anyway, just to set the text, my mother's name was Betty White. Try to live under something like that, okay? That's a tough one. And as a matter of fact, it got so tough that one time I saw the real Betty White, in a store, and I walked up and she says, well, what, you're getting too close. And I said, well, you're Betty White, aren't you? And she said, yes. And I said, well, you're number 2 in our family. And she said, well, what does that mean? You want an autograph? And I said, no, my mom's name is Betty White. She just absolutely fell apart and laughed and everything like this. She came up and hugged me. So that was a kind of nice, the way it went with my mom being Betty White. Ann Buxley is here, and she gave me a title to the piece called The Word, all right? And let me see how many people that have nodded already. They've already heard this fucking story. But excuse me, it's an F-bomb, okay? Young lady? All right, okay. Anyway, so we brought my mom. My mom died when she was 97, a couple of years ago. And I brought her down here to recuperate and try and live out her life closer to her son. My dad had died at 62. So I'd go and visit her every day, and I'd play the same piece of piano with all her friends, and they'd all clap, and I'd do the same thing every day. And I was very popular at the old folks home. It played Key of C Boogie for 5 minutes, and I was a big hero. Anyway, that sort of sets the context because I went over to see my mom, and we got very, very close. As a matter of fact, I got closer in the last 6 or 8 years in her life than the whole 70-something years beforehand. Interesting thing that happens. And I turned out she was a big flirt. And she had a great sense of humor that never showed while I was growing up with her. Anyway, so I go over there, as the story goes, and we brought her down here and put her in Camarillo, and she was very happy. And I walked over there one morning, and I said, hi, what's doing? She said, hi, good to see you again. We're going to go play piano. I said, well, I don't have the time because I'm going to go fishing. And she said, what? And I said, well, I'm going to go fishing where we've always fished. And we had a favorite river in our family called the Pitt River in Shasta County. And so she said, well, okay, all right. And I said, I'm sorry, Mom, you can't come. She said, I haven't fished for 20 years. And I said, well, I'm going to go up there and have a good fucking time. And so she said, what did you just say? And I said, well, I'm going to have a good fucking time. She said, what word? I've never heard that come from you, okay? And I said, well, which one? I started to play with it already. And she said, well, that F thing that you just brought up. And I said, you mean fucking? And I said, oh, that's a wonderful word, Mom. She said, oh my God, quiet. Okay, and it was in a room with a couple of other people at the old folks home. And so I said, sit down. I have to, I'm an artist, okay, and I can say those things, Mom. And she kind of nodded. And I said, you can say that's fucking good, that's fucking bad. You want to close your ears? Okay. You can put hands over it. It works that way, okay? Mufflers? Okay. You have to live with it, sweetie. You'll learn through me, I guess. Anyway, I can just see you working away and 20 years from now saying there was some crazy guy talking about the F-bomb. Anyway, so I said, this is what you could, you got a fucking good place to stay. You can fuck off, stop bothering me, fucking good dinner. And I was introducing the term, and she said, oh my God, stop it. Okay, so I said, well, anyway, I'm going to go away and have a fucking good time. And I'll bring you back some fucking good fish. And she just was going crazy, okay? And so then I left, and I went fishing with my friend, and I had a heart attack in the river about 2 days later, and I was going to be gone for 4 days. And so I my good friend Steve Nagler, who's performed with me before here, picked me up, took me to the shore and pumped the water out of my mouth and saved my life. And I ended up in a hospital, and I ended up in a hospital a day later down here in Santa Monica, and I got operated on. And they put in a pacemaker and a defibrillator, I think it's called, anyway. And so this took about 3 or 4 days, and I had my daughter come up and fly up from Austin. And so time went by, maybe 6 or 7 days, and I realized that I hadn't contacted my mom. Okay, so I said, oh my God, I better tell her what happened, but I don't want to scare her. So I called up the place where she's staying, and they said, oh, you have to come here. She's waiting for you. So I came down, I went to the Camarillo place, and I'm walking down the hallway, and the charge nurse at the halfway point said, he's here. And I said to myself, what's going on? I looked around, I didn't know it was pointed towards me. And she said, oh, you just go into your room, and the other nurses all kind of like gathered around. And I said to myself, what in the hell is going on? Okay. Is hell better than FU? Okay. Anyway, so I go in, and so I knock, and she said, who's there? And I said, it's me, and I'm coming in. I came in, she said, where in the fuck have you been? Okay. And I went, whoa. And she said, I'm serious. Where in the fuck have you been? And I said, well, I had a fucking heart attack, okay? We had a little competition there. So I sat on the edge of the bed, and all she could do was just say the F-bomb all the time. So I finally said, Mom, I've got to get going, but, I'm okay. Everything's fine. And I'm madly impressed that you're using the F-bomb. And she said, what's an F-bomb? She didn't even know what an F-bomb was. Okay, so I go outside, and I'm leaving, and I said, you're a fucking good mom. And she said, you're a fucking good son. And we left, and I went down the hallway towards the end of this story, and all the nurses are down there, and the charge nurse said, how about that? She said, she's terrorized the whole ward. Everybody's afraid to go in there. Okay, thank you. It's fucking hard to get out of here.